All right, all right. Welcome to another edition of Cory Means Business podcast and YouTube show. Thanks for joining me. Today we are going to be going over this week's updates in the coronavirus saga as it continues. Got some more information for you guys, some sweet updates on what's going on around the country as well as the virus itself and how it's impacting business. So let's stick around for that. Let's stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. We've got some major developments happening in the last few days on the coronavirus front and what it's going to mean for your business. Obviously, the mask thing continues to go on. Lots of evidence coming out, and we went over it last time that obviously the masks don't do any good, at least the way people use them. So for your business, whether or not you want to use a mask or not use a mask is going to be up to you. You can, if it's mandated by your state or whatever to use your mask, absolutely. A lot of customers, though, are not going to want to wear them. I wouldn't force any customers to wear them unless it's completely mandated by your state. I know in a few cases it is, especially like salons and barbershops. But in most businesses, stores, restaurants, stuff like that, gyms are now opening up across the country. Face masks are not mandated. Don't make your customers wear them. Let it be optional. They can. Don't make fun of them. If not, then don't force it because you're going to piss a lot of people off. And again, it's not doing any good. It's not like there's a reason for it besides some weird thing going on in people's minds. Anyway, we covered that last time. So let's talk about what's going on. Now, we know that Georgia and Florida have been open, primarily most of their businesses for quite a while. The good news update coming out of there is coronavirus cases in Georgia, Florida continue to decline despite business opening. So we know that Georgia opened up first. It's been almost a month now, about 3.5 weeks since they opened up, and their cases are continuing to decline, both in new cases as well as fatalities. So does not appear to be that fear that everybody had that, as soon as all the businesses opened up and people started getting back together, the virus is going to explode. It's not happening. We knew that. We knew that by looking at just the virology of this virus. Again, it's super, super contagious, but not very dangerous for 99.9% of everybody. So a virus like that's typically going to run right through the population and it's going to burn out. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing it all over the place. And we can see this evidence in a number of places. Clearly, Georgia and Florida are presenting it. But also, too, if we look at the coronavirus cases worldwide and deaths worldwide, we can take a look at it and we can see that worldwide, again, I'll put links as always in the YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you can go to worldmeters.info and you can look at all the coronavirus stats all across the world, all across the country, any states, provinces, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to scroll down here to our world view, right? And we see here, we look at yesterday's cases and we can see that about 5,000 reported for yesterday, most in the USA, every country reporting significant drops. And there's a few that are really standing out, and we're going to talk about that in a minute as far as our whole scamdemic theme that we're talking about. But that's what's going on. So cases are continuing to drop around the world and in the U.S. All states are reporting fewer cases, fewer fatalities, hospitalizations across the board are going down. So it really there's great confirmation out there that clearly this virus is burning out, and we knew it would. And so the idea there's going to be some great uptick. It's not going to happen. There's not many second waves, third waves. That's all nonsense. A lot of people are trying to report that, saying that China and so forth is having increases. It's simply not true. That said, looking at some of the other statistics I want you guys to pay attention to, there's some anomalies that are sticking out that are really making you go, So we know here in the United States, the coronavirus is obviously, especially in New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Massachusetts, they've had some pretty crazy numbers. And if we do some calculations, let's start with the worldview first. So USA, we've got 10 million tests, 1.4 million positives, so about 14% tested positive so far. And we have 185,000 deaths. We know that in New York, New Jersey, they've got the highest death rates. They're looking at like 6% of confirmed cases to fatalities, which is obviously way high. It's crazy, 6%. Then we can look at some other stats that show way less. But let's look at it on the world view. So right now we're looking at 85,000 deaths on 1.4 million cases. 85,000 divided by 1.430,348. And we come up with about, it's about right there, about 6%, because New York and New Jersey and those five eastern states, the New England area plus New York, they're reporting high death rates. So we're looking at about 6% nationwide in the United States. You see it right there represented. 6% is coming up as 0.059, rounded up to 6. This is your hundredths. This is your tenths. So if it were to go above here, we'd be like over 10%. So this would be the 10%. This is down into the single digits, 6%. So why is it 6%? I mean, the United States has the best medical system in the country. We have more money than anyone else. We react faster than anyone else. We have National Guard. We have a federal government that's willing to get involved. We can flip our factories to, making PPE, ventilators, whatever you need. GM stops making cars, starts making ventilators. We have that kind of power in this country. Most countries don't have that. So 6% seems a little high. Now let's look at some other countries. Let's, for instance, look at a competitor, Russia. Okay. Now you can make of this what you will, but we look at Russia, 242,000 cases, only 2,200 deaths. That's easy math right there, right? Comes back at 1%. So we're showing 6%. Russia is showing 1%. Russia have better medical care than us? Very interesting, right? But it doesn't stop there. We can scroll right down here. We see Germany. Germany, that's coming in at about 3%. Germany, you could argue they have better medical facilities than us. They have less population. They definitely have a per capita income higher than ours. They've got some resources. So you could say Germany could beat it down to the 3%. But then let's look at some of these other countries. Let's look, for instance, at Turkey. Now, is Turkey really giving us a run for our money on medical efficiency? It's tough to say, but let's look at Turkey's numbers. So Turkey, we got 3,952 deaths, and it's slowing, only 58 deaths yesterday, so that's slowing. It's slowing all across the world. But let's just do the math. 3,952 divided, and so far they've got 143,000 cases, 143,114, and we come up with less than 3%. We come up with 2.76%, so it's dropping. Turkey must really have something on us as well, because it's about half. Very interesting. Let's continue down. So there's Turkey. Looking at these countries, about the same, between that 3 to 6%. We get down to Peru. Now, Peru's an interesting story. I've been to Peru many times, and I can tell you their medical facilities are not, they're definitely third world, to say it nicely. So, Peru is upper third world, but still third world. So let's look at their death rate. 2,169 reported deaths on 76,000 cases. So we'll divide that by 76,306. And we're less than 3% again, 2.8. Well, geez, I guess Peru also. So Turkey and Peru are kicking our butt with the fatality rates. And keep in mind, they're not even really testing all that much. Look at their testing. 500,000, 76,000. So that's coming up at about 14%. So about the same as us. So their testing is coming out at about 14%. So they have the same kind of, if we extrapolate that data across the population, we're going to have about a 14% infection rate. So it's about the same, but yet their death rate is half, less than half. This doesn't make sense. In a third world country, why is it less than half? But we're not done. Let's go down to a place like Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia, again, they got some money. There's no doubt about it. I don't think their medical system is probably pretty good. But let's take a look at Saudi Arabia. Now, I still don't believe their medical system should be as good as ours. But if we look at theirs, we've got 44,000, we'll call it 45,000 cases. They've tested about the same, about 500,000. So they're coming up at about a 10% infection rate. But look at this, 273 deaths. Let's look at that math. 273 divided by 44,830 equals, look at that number, 0.006. So they're less than 1% death rate. So Saudi Arabia is less than 1%. Wow, man, they must really have some medical superiority to the United States. But we're not done. Even if we go to Mexico and we look at Mexico on a case basis, we're looking at about a 10%. Again, if it's across the board with their testing, which is only 142,000. So at 142,000, I mean, they're coming up pretty high on the number of confirmations. Only 142,000 tests and about 38,000 positives. So they're right there at about 30%, upper 20s, almost 30%. So they're double what the United States is as far as infected rates. So if we extrapolate that against their population, now keep in mind Mexico has a way smaller population than the United States, a little less than half, I believe. But that's a high infection rate. But they don't have that many deaths, only 3,900 deaths. Something's going on. Something strange, don't you think? Same thing for Pakistan. Look at Pakistan, 761 deaths on 35,000. That puts it at less than 1%. If we go down to Qatar, of all places, only 14 on 26,000, less than 1%. Belarus, okay, Eastern European country, Belarus, only 146 deaths on 25,000 cases. That's 0.002%, way less than 1%. Same thing for Singapore. Singapore, 25,000 cases, only 21 deaths. So we have all these third world countries reporting very minor death rates. What's going on? How are all these third world countries reporting less than a 1% death rate? Bangladesh, same thing. UAE, same thing, less than 1%. Poland, less than 2%. Here's a good one, Israel. Israel have any reason to lie about their numbers? Israel's tested about 500,000, got 16,000 confirmed cases, so it's not spreading that much in Israel. But let's look at Israel's numbers. 264 divided by 16,548. 16,548 equals 1.5%. And we'll see the same thing in the Ukraine. We'll see the same thing in Japan. We'll see the same thing in Austria. Okay. We'll see the same thing in about 15 to 20 other countries. Colombia. We'll see the same thing in South Africa. We'll see the same thing in the Philippines. Kuwait has less than 1%. South Korea has less than 1%. Okay. So we're getting down into a bunch of countries that have less than a 1% death rate. Now, how in the world is the United States, the preeminent country in the world when it comes to resources, money, okay? Besides New York, we don't really have that much of a dense population, or at least, nothing like India. But we look at a place like India. India is kicking our ass in both transmission as well as fatality. How is that? How is South Korea kicking our butt? Now, let's look at some place that's been in the news, Sweden. Okay. Now, Sweden, as we famously know, never closed down. Now, a lot of these countries never closed down. Now, Sweden never closed down, right? They just did a little bit of social distancing, canceled some big concerts, canceled some bigger sporting events. But other than that, they went on with their lives. They didn't shut down restaurants and all wearing masks. They just said, hey, if you're old and weak, stay in, quarantine yourself. Everybody else, keep living life. They're down. They've got about, right, way this shows about a 10% fatality rate. But again, they haven't done much testing. Only 177,000 tests out of a country of 10 million people. Only 177,000. They've got 27,000 confirmed cases. So they're coming in at about what? A 14, 15% infection rate. Same as the United States. About the same infection rate as the United States. Now, we've shut down everything. People have been told to hide out in their homes. Don't touch nothing. Don't go out. And how do we have the exact same infection rate as a country that didn't do any of that? Now, their death rate's a little higher, but again, they haven't done much testing. If they did more testing, that death rate would drop like a rock. And I'm sure it'd probably be somewhere around the 6%, 5% of the United States. So, and also a lot of these other countries, Japan never locked down. Austria never locked down. There's a lot of these countries that never actually locked down. I'll put in a list of that too in the links. A lot of these countries never locked down. They have less transmission and less fatality rates than the United States and any other country that locked down. Why is that? Well, let's peel this back a little bit and take a look. I think we all know why this is, but let's go ahead and prove it. Okay. Now we talked about it last time, the military numbers. We know the military numbers for the United States showed us that in fact the death rate was less than 1%. It was 0.006%. Matter of fact, it was 6 out of 1,000. So it was about 1 out of 300. So less than 1%. It was 0.33 of 1%. So a third of 1%. That's what the military is. Now, if you look at New York, okay, 27,000 deaths on 350,000 confirmed cases. They're setting high at about that 8% mark. And then from there, New Jersey does a little bit better. Massachusetts does a little bit better. California's doing pretty good. They're down there at about the 3-4%. Most states that have higher case rates are about the 3 or 4%. But if we get into some of the other states that aren't reporting as many cases, like for instance, like let's look at Virginia. Okay, now Virginia's a pretty big place. It's not small. 26,000 positives on 180,000. So that's about 14%. So they're tracking about what everybody else is, about 14%, or at least they're on the national average infection rate. But look at their deaths. Only 927 on 26,000. So let's do that. Let's do 927 divided by 26, 746. We come up with a 0.03. They must have something extra in the water in Virginia where they don't have the same death rates as everybody else. But if we keep going, we're going to find some even more significant statistics. Let's look at Tennessee, for instance. Tennessee, only 273 deaths on 16,000 confirmed cases. Let's do that math. 273 divided by 16,370. And we come up with, look at that, less than 2%, 0.016%, less than 2% in Tennessee. And Tennessee did not have anywhere near a strict shutdown or quarantine that New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Massachusetts, California, Pennsylvania, way less restrictions on the people and businesses. So how come they don't have a higher transmission rate? How come they don't have a higher death rate? It just doesn't seem to make any sense, does it? We see the same anomaly going on in North Carolina, Iowa, Minnesota, even in Arizona. We're at 3% on the death rate, which is again questionable, knowing that what we know now. But if we look at something like Nebraska, 1%. We look somewhere, Utah, 1%, less than 1%. And again, Utah never locked down. We can look at other states that didn't lock down. Arkansas, 97, less than 1%. South Dakota, 39, 1%. Idaho, about 2%. North Dakota, 2%. Okay. Now, we're comparing apples to apples. Keep in mind, we're not comparing apples to oranges here. We're talking about death rates. So we have all these states that didn't have anywhere near the lockdowns, and for some reason, somehow their transmission levels are a lot less, If we look at any of this, let's look at Utah. Utah's a prime example. A lot of people, Salt Lake's a pretty dense metropolitan area, would compare to any larger city around the country, with the exception of maybe New York. We have 156,000 tests and only 6,620 positives. So they have a lot less transmission rate. It's way less than the national average of 14%. So if we do 6,620 divided by 156,786, we have only 4% of their population is actually getting the virus. Why is that? How is only 4%? We're looking at something like 30% in New York, 40% in New Jersey, only 4%. Now, again, there's something to be said for population density and all that, and public transportation and subways. I get it that the numbers of transmission should be higher. What should not be higher in any circumstances is going to be the fatalities, is going to be the death rate. So we have state after state after state that didn't do lockdowns, that didn't shutter businesses, that didn't make their people stay in their homes. They have less cases, they have less transmission rates, and they have less fatalities. Makes you go, Now, what is the explanation for this? Is it just, the virus just picks on certain people? The virus just doesn't like blue states? I know the virus is Republican. It doesn't want to mess with the Republicans. It's only messing with the uber liberals. Is that the explanation? What's the explanation? There isn't a legitimate one. Well, there is, but there's not a legitimate one that you could say would justify these numbers. Here's what it is. We know they're faking and baking the numbers in those uber liberal states. We know they're faking the death rates in New York. They're calling, you got hit by a car, testing for COVID. Oh, got COVID, died of COVID, not died by the car wreck. And that's happening. So they're coding deaths. They're getting paid. They're making a play. They're making a power play for not only keeping the economy locked down so they can try to hurt the current administration. They're also making a power play for a prolonged scenario where they can grab more power. And they're also obviously looking to get more money out of the federal government. The bigger problem they have, the more money they can claim they need. New York, California, all these states are there. They're wanting tens of billions of dollars because of their situation. But they're making the situation worse because they get more money out of it. So it's a big power play for these governors, and it's a money grab. It's a power play and a money grab. The same thing that politics always is. It's about money. It's about power, and the evidence is absolutely clear. Now, we want to do a little fact check. Let's do it. Two populations we can always look at, we can always refer to, that we know cannot be faked. Cannot. Not possible. Too many records, too much accountability, cannot be faked. Those are the U.S. military. Since last week, not a single further death. 800 more cases, 8,210 cases, only 27 deaths on 82. That's less than a third of 1%. But also let's look at something else that's shocking. Federal prisons. Now, I'm sure some of you have seen articles. These prisoners are actually trying to give each other COVID. They're actually literally getting together, and whoever's been tested positive is trying to spread it because they're getting released if they test positive. So they're trying to give it to each other. Now, why in the world would they risk getting it if this thing is so deadly? Because they know it's not deadly. Let's look at these numbers. Federal prisons, 51 deaths on 3,629 cases. Let's face it, people in prison aren't the healthiest. So we got 51 deaths, and there's a lot of old people in prison too, a lot of lifers, especially in federal prison. 51 divided by 3,629. And we also know their medical system is crap in federal prison. And look at this death rate in federal prison, 0.014. So barely over 1%. I wonder how a federal prison, man, they must really, really have one heck of a medical system there to be able to like beat New York's death rate by 800%. Okay, New York is having an 8%, 9% death rate. The federal prison system is a little over 1%. The U.S. military, a third of 1%. Utah, less than 1%. Tennessee, less than 1%. South Dakota, all these states, less than 1%. So we know it's not the virus. If it was the virus, these numbers would be consistent. They would just be consistent across the board. It's not the virus. It is who's controlling the numbers, where the numbers are being controlled. That's indicating what the death rate is. But we've proven now, looking at multiple countries that have nothing to gain or lose by falsifying a death rate. We have all those countries with less than 1%. We have all these states with less than 1%. We have the federal prison with less than 1%. We have the military with less than 1%. So all of these places where the deaths either have no motive to be faked and or can't be, like the federal prison and the military, we have death rates of less than 1%. It should put it to rest once and for all the fact that this virus is not very deadly. Now, I can tell you in the federal prison and in the U.S. military, every single one had severe underlying medical conditions. That's a fact. Good thing that came out this week as well. In fact, Italy came out with a report that 99% of all the people that have died in Italy of the coronavirus had severe underlying medical conditions. So, how's this tie in for your business? Simple. You're going to be getting customers back. A lot of people are still buying into this fear and this nonsense that the media is selling them, that these politicians are selling them. I don't know how they don't see through it. I don't know how, I'll get on social media and argue with people. I don't understand how they don't see it, recognize it. It's as clear as day. Anybody that does any research, and again, I'll put links to all this on this video. Anyone that does any research, you can see right through this crap. Okay, now good news. We got some good news today. In Wisconsin, the Republican Party sued the governor, and they won in their Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin, not the United States Supreme Court, but the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and they won. So good news there. They won in Wisconsin. Supreme Court strikes down stay-at-home order. Wisconsin was one of the ones like California, New York, and Michigan, Illinois, that were going to dig in for 3 months. They weren't going to open up anything until September, maybe. We'll see how it goes. We'll let you know in September. So Wisconsin just got their stay-at-home order struck down. I'm sure other states and these ultra liberal blue states that are playing these games, they're also going to get struck down. Hopefully somebody comes in there and verifies these death rates so we can hold some people accountable for faking it, because it's sick. It's sick what they're doing. It's inexcusable. They are putting fear into the American public. Regrettably, most people don't do any research. They don't. They read a headline from their favorite news outlet that's owned by some super liberal with an agenda, and they read the headline. They don't read paragraph 2 where the writer has to have some semblance of decency and journalism and comes out with the truth that's completely contrary to the headline. They just read the headline, which is sad. And these people know this. These news outlets know it. The politicians know it that are spinning these webs of lies. They know it. They know that a good majority of people are only going to read the headline, and then they're going to just take the headline, and that's what their belief system is based on. They don't ever do any research. They don't ever read paragraph 2 of the article. So here's what we know so far over the last 2 videos. The masks are worthless, but hey, if your customers want to wear them, if you're required to wear them, wear them. If your customers want to wear them, let them wear them, but don't require them to wear them. Okay, don't open yourself up to ADA lawsuits. Don't do it. So don't require your customers to wear them. And if the state that you're in requires your customers to wear them, then you put that out there and put that the state is making you, that you do not agree with it. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting sued. But we're going to start seeing these stay-at-home orders dropping as these court cases keep coming out. They're going to get defeated because it is unconstitutional. As far as your business goes, if you can open up, open up. Don't be afraid to open up. This virus is nothing. It's a scam. It's a scamdemic. It's a real virus. I've said that before. But it's not. It's no worse than the flu. We don't run like this from the flu every year. Tens of thousands of people die from the flu every year. Real deaths, not fake deaths like this. Real deaths. If we were to take the actual cases we have and we were to actually do the 1% that we know is the true death rate, okay, we got 1.4 million cases in the United States. It would come out at 14,000. That's what 1% is, 14,000. It's less than the flu, far less than the flu. And again, understanding that 14,000 true deaths have severe underlying medical conditions, and most of them are over 75 years old. Everybody else, this is nothing. It is less than the flu. This virus is proven, now proven. We have the data, the evidence. This virus is proven to be on par with the flu, no worse, and in some situations, less severe. If you're looking at demographics, it's not really affecting children at all, despite what you're hearing. It isn't. It's not affecting younger people where the flu does. The flu kills hundreds of children in the United States a year. The flu kills thousands and thousands of children across the world every year. This virus has claimed hardly any. And the ones that it has, again, severe, very severe underlying health issues. So the virus is nothing to fear. It's nothing to fear for your business. Open your business up if you can and fight like hell if they're keeping you closed. You keep pushing back. You join the groups. Facebook has groups on for every state now where it's a reopen that state, every one. That's where you got to voice your opinion. That's where you got to get aggressive and start pushing back. Be louder than them. If you're louder than them, we can get some movement like they happened in Wisconsin. That's a situation where you have an uber liberal state. The governor was intent on keeping it locked down for months and months and months because they took some action, stayed strong. That just got struck down. They're going to get their businesses back. They're going to get their lives back. They're going to be able to hopefully save their homes, save their life savings, save their children, get their children back in school where they belong, and knock off that nonsense. So hopefully the same thing happens in New York and in Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan, and these other uber liberal states that are trying to keep this stuff closed for months. Fauci is out of there. He's proven he's discredited. He is done. He had his little moment in the sun again yesterday. He looked like a fool. He's out of here. We get this country back open. We get these businesses going again, and hopefully we can save this. A little stimulus money here and there. Some money should be coming your guys' way. PPP. Next up is going to be the Main Street loans, which are going to be great. I'll continue to put links to meet Kevin. He's really the guy on that stuff. He's all over it. I like him. He's a good guy, and I'll keep putting links to him so you can get that information. But again, what the message this week is don't fear. Open your business if you can. Let your customers decide whether or not they want to wear masks and get your business making money again. Next week, we're going to go over some more stuff on marketing and how to get customers that are otherwise fearful back in your business, because that's obviously going to be part of the pie here with regards to some of this stuff going on, being able to get some traffic back in your business while you obviously follow the mandates so that you don't get shut down. They don't mess with you. You don't want that, but you want to be as aggressive as you can without that. Please comment, share, like, subscribe. It helps. The more people we can share this information with, the better off everyone's going to be. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.